funny cause the rappers are posing as the gangsters while the government taking money as bonuses for bankers. In life you learn to close your eyes and hold your tongue, but together we will overcome. There's never been a chosen one.
BTC is not Bitcoin.
The bitch isn't ginger! She's just using makeup to look ginger!
BTC is no longer peer-to-peer electronic cash. It doesn't work that way. It's not what's described in the white paper. And, I mean, that's kind of why Craig initially used his copyright claim to take down, to request to have the Bitcoin core team take down their version of the Bitcoin white paper, because they're representing their product as if it's the same thing as what's described in the white paper when it's not.
This is not meth.
A lot of people think that when the block-sized civil war happened and we saw the emergence of Bitcoin Cash, a lot of people assume that because Bitcoin Cash took on the new ticker symbol BCH, that it was the new chain, but it actually continued with the original protocol, and BTC made protocol changes. It implemented SegWit. So that protocol change changed BTC fundamentally, and from that point on it didn't resemble what's described in the white paper.
You're f***ing dog shit!
Now a year later it forked again, BCH made a protocol change, and we saw BSV emerge as the only Bitcoin continuing with the original Bitcoin protocol. So really that's why you hear a lot of people within the BSV community saying BTC isn't Bitcoin and BSV is the real Bitcoin. Now a lot of that is going to be aired out in the courts now. Like, this is really what's at stake in this trial with the Copa lawsuit. This is just front-running the other lawsuits to verify if Craig has the right to make the claims that he's making on behalf of Bitcoin. So he pretty much has to verify that he's Satoshi in order to prove to the courts that he's someone who can make these claims. So I mean, this is something it's going to remain to be seen in the courts. It's going to be the copyright claim that comes after this if he wins. But there's still a lot of misunderstanding in the market. People don't get this. They still think that because it's got the original ticker symbol, that it's the same thing it always was, that it still represents the same thing. But really, because you have these large transaction fees that are necessitated by the small block size on BTC, it can't function in a way that you can use it for micropayments, where you can send small amounts of money to people because the transaction fees preclude that. Like the transaction fees alone are larger than the amount you might want to send maybe. So it can't do that anymore. And people think like, okay, but it's a store of value now, like, but there's a very specific reason that Bitcoin is supposed to function for small casual transactions. And that's part of Craig Wright's larger plan, which is MetaNet. It's a new version of the internet where instead of having centralized entities gather and harvest and sell everyone's data, small micropayments can be used to access and pay for people's data directly where they hold their own data. They make it available to people on a basis that they choose, and when people access it and use it, they get a small payment for it. So rather than Facebook selling your data, anytime someone wants the data about any of your online activities, they have to come to you for it directly. This is the Web3 model of the internet, where you're going to have ownership over your own data. But this is so threatening to all these big tech companies because they essentially make billions of dollars. Their whole bread and butter is made out of these data harvesting schemes through these centralized social media sites, search algorithms, like streaming platforms. All of that is just data harvesting to the sum of like huge, hundreds of billions of dollars every year. They don't want to lose that market. That's why they're bringing this lawsuit against Craig. They don't want the new model of the internet to be fundamentally based around a system where we cut them out entirely as the middleman between the people who want to buy data and the source of that data, where the people who are actually generating the data can get paid for it. And I kind of touched on this before. A lot of people want a universal basic income because they think automation is going to take away a lot of our jobs. this is almost a de facto universal basic income where your activities online can provide you some sort of income, and they're not actually taking that income from someone else. Like, I think one of the big problems with UBI is you're just taking that money from one place and you're just changing hands with it. You're taking it from someone else and you're taking it from one guy and giving it to another. This model doesn't necessitate taking money from anyone. Everyone's just generating money off the data that they're creating on their own. That's such a better model. We need to completely, I think the way forward for Web3 is to use that as a selling point, where we can have a universal basic income through just the data that we generate through our online activities, and do that in such a way that it's not parasitic. It's not taking money from one person and giving it to someone else, taking it from someone who's earned it and giving it to someone who hasn't. I think when people really get a grasp of that, it's going to take off. People are really going to like that idea. And that was entirely the point of Bitcoin. When you're watching this trial and you listen to things that Craig's been saying about Blacknet and about what inspired him to create Bitcoin, his work in Blacknet inspired him to create Bitcoin because Blacknet needs something like Bitcoin to have an interoperable Web3 model of the internet where your wallet can interact with everything else on the internet and make small casual transactions with everything to move data and money around, not just money, because this is the thing, people still think crypto is all about money. It's so much about data as well. I mean, people are still just starting to figure that out. There's a lot of people who haven't figured it out at all. It's just not on their radar because the typical YouTube influencers don't talk about it. But really, Craig's laying it out in court. Blacknet needed a crypto micropayment system, and it pretty much inspired him to create Bitcoin, and then he wants to implement BSV through MetaNet to pretty much create something that Elon Musk has talked about for a while now, the website of everything, where it hosts everything, where you have everything hosted on this one network, and it's just all business is done there, all commerce happens there, all data is stored there. I mean, when you look at Elon's explanation for renaming Twitter X, it's because X was his inspiration years ago for the website that would be the website of everything. Almost like in WePay or whatever in China, where it's used for everything. And the thing with BSV is because he's talking about now, he said it in court the other day, the 1.5 million transaction per second capability of Terranode, that enables that. They needed that extra boost, that extra capacity in transactions to be able to actually build that system. Now that that system is there and functional, we can actually do this. I mean, a lot of what I want to talk about in this channel is that we're sort of the slaves of centralized entities because we rely on these people for the services that they provide us or the goods that they provide us. They kind of hold leverage over us, and we can kind of re-empower ourselves, take that leverage away from them by creating new technologies and systems and networks that allow us to do these things for ourselves and cut out the middlemen, so that the people that are all using us as a source of data or a source of tax labor, essentially we'll be able to restrict that quite a bit by just moving everything into a system where we're on a level playing field and not playing by their rules. It's a leveling that needs to happen. And I think we're just at this point in history where people are going to realize that the power is in our hands now. We have the tools that we have the tools that we need to take back all this power that we've given to these centralized entities in the process of building up the modern world. It's just the thing. I mean, industrialists weren't necessarily bad people. They built up the modern world that we all love and enjoy now. But they consolidated so much power that there needs to be a leveling again. It just has to happen, and they don't want to see that happen. That's why they're suing Craig. They don't want us to own our own data. They don't want us to cut them out of that market where they're making billions of dollars off our activities.
If they got paid, then how'd we make all our money, right?
We need to take that money back and put it back in our own pockets and honestly just create a better world for everyone. Like, it doesn't need to be this way where these people have like an enormous amount of excess. I'm a capitalist. I support people making as much as they want. I'm not saying that there should be a limit on how much people can make. But I mean, we as people, we should choose a model where if you can use a service and make money off of it, or use a service where someone else takes your data and sells it, let's choose the option that you make the money. Like, it's just common sense. We're going to choose the thing that's in our own best interests. And right now, we're doing out of necessity what's in the best interests of other people, but I don't know. The time is now to flip the script on that and start doing things differently. So that's really what this channel is going to be about, promoting these new systems that are going to take power away from these centralized entities and put it back in our own hands.